Allah Akbar.
I guess subconsciously you start thinking in your head, you know, all Muslims are bad people.
You started feeling the effects of this since you joined the military.
Yeah, I'd say within the first week, there was definitely a sense of me being different.
And how's that?
You know, just upon the first week, we were at reception in my basic training unit. We were lining up after lunch, and the drill sergeants were naming off the services. And the last one that they had to offer, that was on their list that the drill sergeant was reading off, and he said it in a very sarcastic and humorous voice, and he was like, does anybody need to go to Islamic service? So immediately, there was that belittling of the faith. And I raised my hand. And he was stunned. He was stunned. You know, he had to see who this guy was. He brought me out to the front. You know, this is a group of about 400 new recruits, 400 new guys. He brings me to the front. He's like, so you're going to Islamic service? Yes, I am. Yes, drill sergeant. All right. He wasn't expecting it. He didn't know how to respond. I think he felt a little uncomfortable because of how he brought it up, and immediately like, oh, okay. Well, we need to find somebody to go with you, because you always have to have somebody go with you in basic training. And there was no other Muslims in that group. And eventually somebody raised their hand, who I'm still good friends with to this day, that decided to come with me. But that was the first week of not even knowing anything about the military. My first couple days there was this sense of being out of place in the way they looked upon me, you know. These guys in that unit who were there. And essentially these guys are looking up to that drill sergeant as a mentor, as a role model, as something eventually they'll be in the military if they, work through the ranks. And for him to have that attitude, for there to be that atmosphere there, they kind of, I think they saw that, drew to it, and thought it was a normal thing. It was normal. Off the bat, I could sense a little difference in the environment.
So the other recruits picked up on that?
Absolutely.
And they said, okay, my boss is doing this to this guy, so it makes it doable for me too.
Sure. It's the cool thing to do, apparently. It's the standard that's being set.
To embarrass an American Muslim is a cool thing to do?
Absolutely not. In that environment, at that time, in that arena, yes, absolutely. In the military right now, sure.
Kluan is not the only one who felt something totally different about being in the U.S. Army. Others have felt the undertones as well, at least those who are willing to speak, like Chad and Arnold.
From your statement, it sounds like as if America is fighting Muslims, whereas I thought that America and the world are fighting terrorists who happen to be Muslims, and just a tiny little bunch of them.
I don't know, I guess I wouldn't really say Muslims. Like, it's not brought out there like Muslims, but it's like, I guess the majority of them, I guess that's almost how it's portrayed to me, I guess you could say.
U.S. Army Specialist Arnold Mendez.
You kind of get those undertones because you're going through basic training. You're being taught to fight as a cohesive unit. You're taught about brotherhood. Take care of your battle buddy. Look out for your platoon. Look out for your squad. Look out for U.S. Army. Just army of one. And then you have to come together against someone. And even though they might not come out and say we're gonna go fight Muslims, but we're two wars right now that we're fighting, and they make you feel like you're fighting against Muslims, even if they don't say those words. That's kind of like the undertones of everything that we do and everything that they say.
I still wasn't clear about what these guys meant when they said the undertones are there. So I asked Arnold again, what exactly is he trying to say?
They have the sights set up, the fob set up, and the guys who are playing the insurgents, the terrorists, whatever you want to call them, these guys are dressed up in a certain manner. They're portrayed to be of Muslim faith. They're not portrayed to be just anybody. So that's why I said it has those undertones, that, and I guess subconsciously you start thinking in your head, all Muslims are bad people.
And these are the guys who who will be deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq, predominantly Muslim countries, and they have no idea how to differentiate between a terrorist and a regular Muslim guy or a woman.
Absolutely. I think to me that's terrifying, and it's almost hard for me to fathom to think that, you know, and not to say that all soldiers are feeling like that. Not all soldiers see it that way, but as most soldiers, I believe, have that perception of Islam and radicalism. They're one in their eyes.
So I put the same questions to Kluan's commander at Fort Hood, Captain Christopher Arata. He says there are good and bad people in all faith groups, but we just can't label an entire demographic just because of a few bad people.
Do you think all Muslims are terrorists?
Absolutely not. You know, it's again, it's just one of those silly notions that, you know, people come up with. It's you know, a small percentage of Muslims, you know, are, you know, what we consider, you know, insurgents. You know, anti-Iraqi or anti-Afghan forces, or you know, absolutely, they do exist. I mean, there's no question about that. Absolutely. But on the exact same token, there are Christian groups, Christian fundamentalist groups that could very easily be considered, you know, terrorists. And, you know, you've got groups in all faiths and all religions that some people, they interpret it, you know, their very specific way and the way they want it to be interpreted, and they use that as an excuse. But it comes down to the individual person. Always comes down to the individual person. It's unfair to sit there and say all Muslims are terrorists if you're not going to use the exact same standard for everything else, every other religion, every other race, every other, you know, thing. And of course we don't use biases when talking about other people. You know, we don't use stereotypes when talking about, you know, for me, I'm Italian and I'm Irish. You know, people don't talk about me like, you know, stereotypical Italian things or stereotypical Irish things. They just take me for who I am.
Allah Akbar.
God and Allah, they're the same person. You know, they just have a different name.